Hello there and welcome to Albion Obsessed Plays Agree to Disagree. We're going to read out some statements and then myself and Joe are going to either agree with that statement or disagree with the statement, and then we'll have a little chat about our thoughts on that particular statement. It's worth knowing that we haven't come up with answers beforehand. We have only just seen the statements, so nothing is formulating in my brain at the moment. So yeah, let's just see how it goes. Let's get on with the first one. So the first one, Joe, is this. Sami Hyypiä was ahead of his time as a manager.
Alright, 3, 2, 1. Oh, why?
So, I know that when you guys chatted to Craig McCall-Smith in the CMS interview, that Craig McCall-Smith said that he thought he was pretty much ahead of his time, that the way he wanted to play was very similar to the way Jurgen Klopp wants to play now. I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if I buy that at all. For me, I think he was just out of his depth. I think the club hired him because of the name of Sami Hyypiä. Was a fantastic player, but the style of football he wanted to play was just kamikaze. And I can see parts of that pressing, parts of playing the fullbacks nice and high and wide up the pitch. I can see part of that in Graham Potter's plans. But I wouldn't say he was ahead of his time, Joe.
I would say that it was kamikaze because he didn't have the players.
I'd agree there.
He didn't have the right players to execute that style of play. So I think that if you brought him into a Brighton side like Gus had, I feel like he would have seen very, very different results. I mean, we're talking about Chris O'Grady up top.
Yeah, it is worth mentioning
Aaron Hughes.
Yeah, it is worth mentioning here that at this time in Brighton history, our recruitment wasn't the best. I think David Burke was the head of recruitment then, and he lost his job. So, yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that Sami Hyypiä didn't have the personnel to play his style of football. However, I think there comes a point where you've got to say, you know what, this isn't working, and we need to change the players I do have. And I thought Chrissy Hughton did a wonderful job of that when he came in.
Oh, he came into a mess, didn't he?
100%.
Like Nathan Jones did an amazing job as well over those two games to shore the ship, and we got some really good results.
We did.
A win at Fulham, a draw on like the rainiest Boxing Day ever seen against Reading. And as you say, Chris Hughton came in, and we are where we are now because of him. But I think Sami Hyypiä was slightly unfortunate. He didn't help himself sometimes with some of the comments he made in post-match and pre-match interviews. But yeah, what can you do with a squad, as you say, built by David Burke?
Let us know your thoughts down below. Statement number 2. Paul Barber is a great CEO and a great person.
3, 2, 1. Yeah, no, I think he's wonderful.
Yeah,
he does such an incredible, incredible job for the club.
Yeah.
One of the best in the country, maybe even the world. I know fans get really annoyed at him for some of the business decisions he makes, but let's not forget that, yes, Brighton Hove Albion is a football club, and that's what the fans know and love, but it is also a business.
Yeah, I think you've got to accept that in the modern era, especially in the Premier League, football has to be treated as a business as well as a football club. I know he's got some fans, backs up by calling us customers instead of fans, and I totally understand that. And there's been lots of things happening with season tickets and all sorts that get people annoyed, and I totally get that. I totally understand. However, generally speaking, I think he's got a great head on his shoulders. He understands perhaps the nitty-gritty side that we as fans certainly don't. And as I say, you need that in the modern day Premier League era, don't you, Jack?
No, absolutely. And find me another find me another CEO that's going to reply personally to every single fan email.
Oh yeah, putting your email address out there. Ooh,
he gives so much time, and he gives really good answers to sometimes really silly questions, like we've seen at the fans forum. I thought he dealt with some of them this year really well, especially the poem.
The poem was great,
which I'm sure he loves. But no, I think he's a fantastic man, and I hope he's with us for many years to come.
100%. Let us know your thoughts down below. Statement number 3. Ooh, this is going to get some people's backs up, I feel. Brighton and Hove Albion's home support is one of the worst in the league, and our online fan presence isn't much better.
3, 2, 1. Stop that. So our home support, I sort of disagree, especially of late. If I'm going off of recency bias, I'll say that our game against West Ham was fantastic. What a way to end the season. Our game against Manchester United, absolutely wonderful. The only thing I would say about our home support is that when times get tough, we struggle to create a noise. And we do get bantered a lot by other fans that our home support isn't what it should be. I definitely think it can be better, don't get me wrong. But I certainly don't think it's one of the worst in the league.
It's difficult because unless you have gone to every single ground in the Premier League, how can you justifiably compare them? No. I've been to certain games where the home fans sing for the first 5 minutes and then that's completely silent, pretty much for the rest of the game. So it's very difficult to compare. I know that when I've been to Brighton, the North Stand make a lot of noise. Some of the other stands perhaps don't, but is that particularly surprising, Joe, when we've got a family stand?
Not particularly. I as well think, which a lot of fans have mentioned, the away end is in a rough place. It should be away from behind the goal, so we can just generate that atmosphere all the way around the stadium for the boys to get behind. But as Paul Barber's explained before, it's really hard to do that, especially where the coach park is. It's really easy for us to get away fans out. So I don't agree with that part. But I certainly agree with the online thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, I point out that I'm sure every fan base has hashtags on Twitter, especially. They do have some idiots, some toxic people that are just spreading, hate at players and all sorts. Brighton does have that. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. But again, it's hard to compare it because I have never been on all the other sorts of hashtags. But I do know that especially when the starting lineup gets announced, there's always a handful of people, more than a handful of people, moaning, Lallana isn't a Premier League player, blah, 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 blah. And it's just ridiculous. And there's a lot of toxicity out there, isn't there, Joe?
Yeah, what I think Graham Potter's done really well is he's put Lallana in a position where he can use his intelligence. He's pushed McAllister back to give McAllister the running role, the tackling role. And we've got Pascal Gross and Adam Lallana, who are two of the most intelligent footballers.
And Pascal Gross was getting written off by a lot of our fan base this time last year.
Look at him.
Exactly.
He was wonderful.
I mean, don't get me wrong, guys. And Albion Obsessed, we will happily critique strategies and players if they don't perform well, but you've got to do it in a way that doesn't make you come across as someone who's just got an agenda against a certain player or a manager. It is all well and good criticising people and saying, oh, they didn't perform very well in the last game, but think before you tweet, guys. Think before you tweet. Let us know your answers, of course, in the comment section down below. Statement number 4. So for our fourth statement, we have got one that gets bandied about a lot, Joe, especially when times are tough. This statement is this: we should get relegated. The Championship is better anyway.
It's just pathetic, isn't it? Like, why wouldn't you want your club to be performing at the highest level, competing at the highest level against the world's best players? You've seen before, it's destroyed clubs.
Yeah, it's revertigo. That's what I call it, revertigo. There's this sense that, it was romantic in the Championship. Every game was winnable. But it's also worth remembering, Joe, every game was losable as well. The Championship is notoriously difficult to get out of, and it's very easy to get relegated from. I mean, look at Wolves, look at Sunderland. They found themselves tumbling down the leagues. Admittedly, they weren't particularly very well run at the time, but it's very hard to get out, and there's no guarantee that you can get promoted. But as you say, Joe, why would you not want to compete at the very highest level possible? I totally get that, especially in the first few seasons against Premier League opposition, we saw games against the likes of City, Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham. We saw the established Big Six games as almost free hits, and if we get anything, great. But I think these days, Joe, we can go toe-to-toe with anyone and everyone because we've shown that we can.
Absolutely. Like a win at the Emirates. God knows how many times, twice. A win at the new Spurs Stadium. 4 wins against Manchester United in our time in the Premier League. I think the only team we haven't beaten is Chelsea, and I think that could happen this season with how they've started. I don't agree with that statement at all.
Joe, who would you rather go and watch? Brighton versus Manchester City, or Brighton versus Preston North End?
Oh, well, obviously Brighton versus Preston North End.
Yeah, winnable.
Yeah. That's the only reason I would travel up north.
What about to see me?
And then
let us know your comments down below. Statement number 5. Here's one that's going to get a few people's backs up as well. Ashley Barnes was one of the best strikers we've ever had and should be in the same conversations as Zamora, Murray, and Ward.
All right, 3, 2, 1. No. Cult hero, absolutely.
Marmite Man.
Marmite Man, as you say. I think he was heroic in the season that we got promoted from League One to the Championship.
Yep.
That goes unnoticed. Obviously, I know Glenn scored bags of goals, but Ashley Barnes created a lot.
Yep.
Was our talisman alongside Glenn Murray, and especially in the Championship as well. He had some really important moments. I think he'll go down as a cult hero.
Yeah.
But legend, and alongside the likes of Zamora, Ward.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I was saying this to my wife. Every striker that we've ever had since has always been compared to Peter Ward.
Yeah.
And when you compare what Peter Ward's done, what Bobby Zamora's done, what Glenn Murray have done, Ashley Barnes just isn't in that same category. And I also think the word legend gets bandied around far too often these days. People are talking about, is so and so a club legend? Is so and so? Well, you've got to look at what they've done. I think out of all the squad that we've got at the moment, the only person that comes close to club legend is Lewis Dunk, and that's for his longevity. You know, he's a local Sussex lad. He's been from Withdean to Wembley.
I'd throw Solly March in there as well.
I think Solly March could get to that status, but again, it depends on how he performs. I think legendary status, goes hand in hand with performances. I think if you look back at sort of the last 20 years, I think the only people that I would classify as legends are maybe people like Adam Virgo. I would even say Gary Hart, just for that pure longevity. We talk about these people. Bruno, club legend.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. But then if you're going to put Ashley Barnes in that category, why not Calderon?
Yeah, exactly. It could go on forever.
Yeah.
And we've had some wonderful players, and we're blessed to have the memory of these players for as long as we go on. And as you say, it gets banded around far too easily. Yeah. But we'll remember them for the things they've done well, and they will go down as a cult hero.
Yeah, cult hero, not a legend, but of course, let us know your thoughts down below. Is Ashley Barnes a club legend? Let us know. Statement number 6. The Crystal Palace rivalry is overhyped. 3, 2, 1.
No, Thomas, it isn't.
Yes, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, and I'm totally prepared for it. So, I think that it's good to have rivalries. I think that's absolutely fantastic, and I totally understand the history behind it. Great. And I do look for the Crystal Palace fixture as one of the first fixtures I look for. However, there are 2 points that I want to make. The first is, I've made it before on the podcast, I live 200 miles away. I don't have any Crystal Palace fans around me. So it's not even on my radar to sort of have those bragging rights. And I don't care for online banter because I'm 33. I just don't care. I'm more interested, I suppose, in the games against Wolves and Villa, because that's where I get to have my bragging rights. So over recent years, those games have become more important to me on the same sort of level as Palace. And the second thing is, and I'll probably get slated for this as well, this idea that you hate someone, you hate Crystal Palace, you hate people because they support Crystal Palace, is utterly ridiculous. Football has become so tribal. I'm currently reading a book about football in the 1950s, and it's just a different world, Joe. I mean, the footballers, they don't hate each other, the fans don't hate each other. I just don't understand why everything's become this tribal us versus them mentality. Do I care about the rivalry? Yes, to the extent that I want to beat them and have those bragging rights, but it's less important to me now than when I lived in Sussex.
See, I'm a lot more petty than you. I'm 6 years younger than you, and I love the online banter, as you well know. But
does that not go back to what we were talking about earlier, Joe, about online toxicity?
Yeah, but there comes a point between banter and toxicity, I feel. There's a very fine line, and you just have to be very careful not to cross it. I mean, I've crossed the line. I think everybody's crossed the line before, but it's about learning where that line is and correcting yourself if you do make a mistake. I've said so many times that admitting that you've done wrong makes you so much better as a person.
Yeah.
But in terms of the rivalry, it's not downplayed, or shouldn't be downplayed.
But it should be renamed, because it is not the M23 derby. The M23 does not start at Brighton, it does not end in Croydon. It should not be the M23 derby, Joe.
No, did I just call it a derby?
No, you didn't. I was just referring to it because the Sky Sports pundit team, they love to call it the M23 derby. I think it's even called that on FIFA these days. It's not a derby, and it's not the M23 derby because the M23 does not start in Brighton, does not end in Croydon.
Enough said.
Let us know your thoughts down below. Everyone, feel free to tell me that I'm wrong. I'm ready for it. I'm 33. I can handle it.
You're wrong.
This is a bonus question that I have just thought of because it's a thing that really annoys me. The terms big club and small club are childish, petty, and should not be used by anyone older than 10.
3, 2, 1. 100%. I hate it. Somebody made an amazing point on Twitter earlier that it's all relative. Success is relative. Our club, as we've said many times on the podcast, people are probably bored of us saying, 25 years ago, we almost went out of existence. Last season, we finished 9th in the Premier League. This season, I know it's only been 3 games. We are not trying to get carried away here at all. But the way we've been performing, why not? Why can't we finish higher? Obviously, we've had a little bit of banter online with a few West Ham fans. One calling us a beach and getting beaten by a beach. You've not beaten us in half a decade. So if you're calling us nothing, what does that make you? But also in turn, I'm not trying to belittle them whatsoever because they've had Europe. They could even get into Europe again. I think they've got a really easy fixture. No fixture's easy, but a winnable fixture in Denmark. So I want to be like that. I look up to teams like West Ham that have broken that barrier. When like 4 years ago, they were really in trouble.
Yeah, they were, and I think it's worth mentioning here. I think this whole idea of big clubs and small clubs is obviously very much steeped in history, and I know a lot of people put a lot of store on it. But I suppose what I'm talking about here, Joe, is clubs like Aston Villa, clubs like Leeds, clubs like Nottingham Forest, clubs like Blackburn Rovers, who haven't won anything in decades, but their fans still seem to think that people like Graham Potter should go and manage Aston Villa because they're a big club. Are these people, Joe, just history merchants? Are they just suffering from delusions of grandeur?
I think it's just a social media thing that's been born. I don't think you would walk into a pub and find your general Aston Villa fan saying that they're the biggest club in the world. It's all it just comes down to keyboard warriors behind.
You say that, Joe, but even on people like TalkSport, they talk about like, oh, Manchester City isn't as big a club as Manchester United. What have Manchester United won in the last 10 years?
Well, exactly. But as we've said, Man United have won 20 leagues.
But that was a long time ago, Joe. So why does it carry so much weight now? Why should Manchester United be beating teams like Brighton?
Well, yeah, that is a phrase that does really irk me.
But it's not just us. It's teams like Brentford, teams like Leeds, although Leeds are just as bad as everyone else. But there is no given in football. No one has the right to beat anyone, do they?
No, absolutely not. At the end of the day, it's the old cliche that it's played on the pitch, not on paper. It doesn't matter how much you spend on a player, it doesn't matter how much they get paid a week. If they don't perform on the day, you're going to get beaten. It's as simple as that. We've seen Chelsea just get turned over by Leeds 3-0 when they almost got relegated last season. They were literally a point away. So it doesn't matter. A team can win a league and still be of the same stature. Like Leicester, they won the league. You don't see their fans shouting that they're the greatest in the land just because they've won a Premier League.
I think it's just about perspective. If your last achievement as a football club is winning something back in the 50s, saying that you're still a big club now is utterly redundant, especially if you've been playing your football in the second tier of English football for the last, 15, 20 years. I just don't get the mentality, but maybe that's because I'm a supporter of a small club.
Yes, but Tom, our only achievement was making the FA Cup final in the 1980s, didn't you know?
Yeah, but we've also won the Sussex Senior Cup. You'll never sing that.
Champions of Sussex. You'll never sing.
So let us know your thoughts down below. Are the terms big and small club completely irrelevant? Are they just there to make people who won something back in the 50s feel a little bit better about themselves? Let us know. Thank you for watching our episode on Agree to Disagree. Joe, I had a lot of fun, did you?
I had loads of fun, Tom. Yeah, it was good.
Fantastic, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. Please don't forget to leave us some comments and let us know what you think we got right, what you think we got wrong. But as we've already kind of mentioned, Joe, keep it clean, yeah? Keep it happy, keep it like a nice chat. Don't go all toxic on us, yeah?
Exactly, and leave us a like, share, and a comment, as Tom said. And wherever you may be, whenever you may be,
that's my line.
Have a great day.
That's my line.
I know, sorry. Bye. Bye.
See you later.